All right, guys, I'm going to rock and roll. All right. Well, this is an interesting one. Welcome to the line. Stepping up to the line with me here today is Jim Levy with
Mellott.
So this also is really funny for me. Sorry, I'm looking around trying to find my camera and you guys are over there. This is really funny for me. I didn't even realize that there was a company out here with my last name. And to make it even more interesting, you gave me the book and we did some research and we found out that I'm actually from the same area and have a similar origin story. So it sounds like I might be related. Where do I get my check? I was just curious about that. Who do I talk to about that?
You're going to have to have someone else on that one.
All right, man. Jeez.
I'll look into it for you.
Thank you. No, but we're here at Mellott, and you guys are primarily a what? Other than an amazing company, and kudos to your name. I love it.
Well, we like to think of ourselves as a service provider. We're providing services to the aggregate industry.
Okay. For those who are listening that might not know what aggregate is or what the aggregate industry is, what is that?
The aggregate industry, you could quickly sum it up by saying it's the foundation of America.
Yeah.
But the aggregate industry is, whether it be quarrying, mining, it's producing aggregates for the use of concrete, for the use of blacktop, for the use of asphalt shingles. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the aggregate industry in itself, or the industry of crushing stone in itself, started back in 1858 whenever they invented the first crusher. And it was actually back in the Roman times whenever they built roads and they started infrastructure there. So without the industry in itself, there is no infrastructure.
Yeah.
One person consumes over 10,000 tons of aggregate in their lifetime.
What?
You don't think about...
What is the definition of consume?
Well, consume from the standpoint that you will use it. It's on...
Okay, I didn't know if you meant they were eating it at the dinner table.
Well, they can eat it at the dinner table because it's in foods.
Well, you're really a salesman. You can
calcium.
You can eat it at the dinner table.
You can eat it at the dinner table. It can be used everywhere, man.
Wow.
The sky's the limit.
Wow.
When you think about talcum powder, you think about calcium carbonate, you think about all of the grit in your toothpaste, it is a form of aggregate or something that is mined from this earth. The age-old saying is that if you can't grow it, mine it.
Yeah.
That's oh so true.
Wow.
So we provide services for all of the quarries that are up and down the East Coast and basically within the United States.
Okay. Well, I love doing these podcasts because I'm always learning stuff, and I get to sit down with really cool people and hear about what they're doing, and that really is what we're about.
Right.
Our vision is to lift the view of the trades, and so I really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us and talk with us, tell us some of Mellott's story,
Sure.
Tell us some of your story. So what are the origins of Mellott?
Well, we're a 104-year-old organization.
Wow.
And the significance of this organization is that it started out in lumber and coal, and tragedy happened within the family, and the family had to pivot. And then they got into the aggregate industry because of highways that were going by, and they wanted to be able to capitalize on that opportunity. And from there, another tragedy happened in which the third generation took over, and they started into more of a contracted service for the aggregate industry. And from there, it continued to grow. We were contract crushing at that point in time and helping other, companies open quarries up and down the East Coast. And we owned our own quarries. And in 2007, 2008, the decision was made to sell those quarries, and was a phenomenal decision by the owners at that time. There was a major decline in the industry. They sold the quarries, and then we became focused on distribution of equipment.
Okay.
And from that standpoint, we really wanted to focus on reoccurring revenue opportunities and things along those lines that could really take us into the fourth and fifth generation. So
we were talking a little bit earlier. I love business. So when you say reoccurring revenue, I always get a little bit of a twinkle in my eye because that's one of the hardest things in business is to keep the revenue flowing.
Absolutely.
And so reoccurring revenue, I just think is smart business. Mm-hmm. Whenever we can look at that and service-based industries are just really important because that's what I think a lot of the trades are that people don't realize is men and women wanting to provide a service to someone else.
Absolutely.
And that's something that is fulfilling, satisfying, I believe it feels good because it is good.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe it's something that we're designed and meant to do. Like we're meant to help each other and work together to lift each other up.
Well, I agree with you 100%. There's no better feeling than whenever
Yeah.
you can provide help and assist someone.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
you know,
So Mellott is a century old, or more than a century
more than
now.
a century.
And so you glossed over a couple of things, and I don't want to get into the personals of the Mellott family, but I think that one thing that in society and in culture today that we kind of miss, we look at an organization like this and they're here for over a century.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned tragedy twice
Correct.
when you talked about the origin story. And tragedy sucks.
It does.
And
but it creates opportunity.
Well, and that's where I'm going. And I want to just kind of touch on this and reference, because I think it's really important. When tragedy happens, you have a choice to make.
Correct.
And so you know that story, and they made those choices, but it's not always easy. It's not always, actually, it's never easy when that happens. And so why do you think that, and I know that you weren't there,
Right.
but the first tragedy, why you said pivot, which I find interesting because that involves some wisdom in not giving up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big proponent on enduring, not giving up. I just read a thing about in the War of 1812. I'm trying to remember the name of the ship, but the captain was dying on the deck, and he said to his men, "Don't give up the ship." And so what is it, do you think, in the core of the culture of Mellott, that they didn't give up the ship, that they didn't quit, and they decided to pivot instead of not one tragedy, but even two? They continue to not give up. What is it about this organization?
That's a good question, but I think, you have to have foresight, as you said, and our leadership team has always been very forward thinking, but I think it's culturally. I think if you look at where we're located, I think if you look at what we stand for, and the original ownership were blue collar hard workers. Their hands were in the dirt. I mean, they built this. They built this with their hands.
Yeah.
So what more to fight for than something that your family and generations before you has built?
Yeah.
I mean, you shouldn't need any other reason than that, really, in my opinion.
Well, that's the truth, and I think it's the ultimate decision to not be selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know about you, but I go to work every day for my wife and my children and for their future. And you could call that selfish, but I really I care about the people in our organization in the same way that I care about my wife and my children, in the sense of we're all trying to put food on the table.
Absolutely.
And when you're provided with an opportunity, there are some people that when they're provided with an opportunity to say, well, I'm done, and walk away, they don't see it that way. They see it the way that you said it, which tragedy provides opportunity.
Absolutely.
But you can only see it if you have your eyes open.
Correct.
And so that's a pretty impressive thing that over the course of those 100 years, not one tragedy, but a second tragedy, and I'm questioning, I'm asking you, when they pivoted and did that, did it become better than what it was? Like, did Mellott go to, like, as an organization, it seems like you guys kept pivoting and experiencing. You told me a story earlier when we were walking around having a tour about times were getting tough and you were running out of work for one side of the company. We'll probably get into that earlier, but it's like you pivoted and brought in more revenue for the organization. So my question to you is, do you feel like when you decide to look at opportunity, if you don't quit, there's always a reward at the end? That would be my question.
No, and I would agree with that 100%. I think anytime an opportunity presents itself, it's going to present challenges, but again, it's going to create the award at the end.
Yeah.
And I think it takes driven individuals to take advantage of those opportunities. And I love what you said when you said you have to have your eyes open.
Yeah.
There's opportunities that are around us everywhere. Yeah. And,
I only know that because I've missed more than a few.
Well, that's just it. That's what I was going to say. What's that saying that, opportunity not taken is one you don't get, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly what it is, but And you ask, in reference to it getting better, I think any time that you're taking an opportunity, you want it to get better.
Yeah.
So as the organization was pivoting, we were pivoting when what the thought process and the strategy said we should pivot to get better, to grow, to continue to capitalize on whatever may come down, come down the line.
I think that's an important thing, whether you're an individual or you're an organization, a company, whatever. You can feel like when you're having that epiphany that you need to pivot, that it's hopeless or that there's no way, you can't do it or whatever that is. And the importance of recognizing that that you have to face it.
Absolutely.
At Blackline, one of our core values is called grit.
Mm-hmm.
And we define grit as the courage to face it.
Absolutely.
And so it's like if wherever you are in life, if you're 18 years old and you're dealing with trauma or hardship, whether you're 40 years old and you're looking at a career change or whatever, if you have the grit to face it, you can turn a tragedy into an opportunity that actually creates a win or a profit.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And we have a philosophy here that, I never did anything. And that's, a philosophy that I have with my daughters. I have 2 daughters.
Good for you.
And they actually, I wear 2 bracelets. One says, "Don't wish for it, work for it," which is something that I always tell them. And the other one says, "Nothing worth having comes easy." So I
have said that. That is the truth.
I think about, when you going back to opportunities, whether it be opportunity in business or whether it be opportunity in your personal life, a lot of people spend more time trying to figure out why they shouldn't take the opportunity as opposed to just taking the chance.
Yeah. I 100% agree. I think that one of the biggest missed opportunities is the one not taken.
100%.
And one of the best pieces of advice I ever got in life, I was in my early 20s, and I was thinking of going out on my own and starting a company. And a close friend of mine, he looked at me and he said, "What's the worst that could happen? What have you got to lose?"
Exactly.
And I since later in life now think a lot more about the worst that could happen. But in my early 20s, you don't have a lot to lose.
Right.
And quite frankly, if you have the mindset and the attitude of not giving up and not quitting, you can't lose.
Exactly.
You really, truly can't. So what are the origins of Jim? How did you end up here in this chair? Where did you... Was this your first job, second job, third job? Tell me how you got here.
I am a product of opportunity, oddly enough, as we just talked about that. I grew up on a dairy farm. Just my mom, my dad, and my brother.
I'm from Lancaster County. I know a little bit about dairy farms.
And I think really what helped build a lot of what I was able to do is that my mom, in our milk house where we were, there was a bumper sticker that she put on the door, and it said, "You never fail until you stop trying." So if we went to my office, you would see that saying is up on the wall. And anytime we got a little wonky, she would drag us up there by the by the back of her neck. And she was 100 pounds too, but she kicked the shit out of us if we weren't.
What's your mom's name?
My mom's name's Carla.
Carla.
Yeah.
I like Carla.
And that's with a K. You got to get that straight too. But anyways, growing up, worked hard, had an opportunity to go to college and play some football that didn't really work out. So right after high school, I built houses for just a little bit, maybe a couple months, and didn't want to milk cows, didn't want to do that. And I needed a job, and I came here and did the interview and was hired. I don't even think I was back home yet, and they had hired me. And with 2 weeks later, I was on an airplane to Georgia. I've never flown anywhere before in my life. I didn't even know what a quarry was at that point in time, or really what the hell I was even going to be doing. But wound up in Jefferson, Georgia, with a shovel in my hand, and obviously no stranger to hard work. And I quickly learned that, and shoveling sucks. I'm not above it,
right?
But I'd really like to run that piece of equipment. So I moved into several pieces of equipment to actually being the plant operator. And at 21 or 22, I think I was the youngest superintendent still to this day that was ever appointed here. and that was maybe 2 years after I started here.
So I'm going to pause right there because I think this is important, and I want to unwrap this a little bit, because if you're 21 or a 22-year-old and you're listening right now, there's a nugget here that I'm using an aggregate term
Hey,
there.
I like it.
You know, there's a nugget here in that statement. You were the youngest one to be promoted to that position. Why did they do that? What did you do that made them promote you to that position?
I think it was drive. It
Yeah.
was passion.
Yeah.
And at one point in time, like we were working a lot of hours. We were spending weeks at a time away from home, and what really got me going was my mom's like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
I said, I don't know. Maybe I'll run that place one day. And she kind of snickered. I don't think she meant it the way that I took it. And I know she didn't.
Yeah.
But it kind of gave me a chip on my shoulder, and I said, why can't I? You know, everyone puts their pants on the same way.
Yeah.
I still put my pants on the same way everybody else does every single morning. So there's no reason why I can't.
Yeah.
And from there, it was all about the determination to continue to grow, to continue to learn. And I was always curious. My mind never stops. And I just always wanted to see what's next. I don't like to be bored. I like to be challenged. I like to solve problems. And that's what this creates for us.
That is the thing that I love about the trades and blue collar. All of it is, there's a phrase that they use in the dirt world a lot, where they say from shovel to CEO.
Yeah.
Like, and it's one of those things where it's like, first of all, I believe that we're all equal, period.
100%.
But you can't cheat that in our industry.
No.
You can't. There is no cheating that. And you can also tell immediately when a guy walks onto the job that has no time in the dirt, you know, or in the aggregate, the stone, the dust, whatever it is that you got. But, so there you are. You're 21 or 22. We're back in your origin story now. So then where are we going from there? The youngest promoted to your role.
At that point in time, you're learning how to be 21. You're learning how to travel. You're learning how to become a leader. You're now all of a sudden have major responsibilities of the safety of the individuals you're responsible for. You've got, you know, multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment that you're responsible for making sure they're running, and the expectations that you produce with it. So, I mean, it was pretty heavy.
Yeah.
And from there, it was just, you know, continuing to learn and just continuing to grow. So took on another opportunity came along. You know, if I wanted to take on another job at another quarry and take over as a superintendent there with a different crew, and just took that. And from there, bounced around, running different jobs all over North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Florida. And then the question was posed that, would you like to, you know, do something else or move into service? So I thought about it and took a demotion from being a supervisor. At that point in time, I could have rode it out and been a supervisor and probably had several plants that I was over, but I agreed to come here in this shop and be a service technician, learn how to rebuild the equipment that I was out there running, and learn how to work with these guys. And moved into, I was quickly in charge of this shop, and then they asked if I wanted to go into the administrative side on the quoting. So I went and was an assistant service manager. And as we talked about earlier, our service manager at that point in time had a really significant accident. I mean, thankful he's okay, but he missed significant time at work. And I stepped into the service manager's role, and I never took my foot off the gas, man. Went to a GM, then I was managing the service department, and then back to the crushing department, and then from there became the vice president and worked across all areas of this organization.
So we need to get that out there right now. Your title right now is?
Vice president of service and crushing, and I think that's what's on the card. But I get
we talked about what I think about titles and,
exactly.
and what they mean earlier, but there is something to that, meaning, and I want to, you said something along the way, and I made a mental note of it, and I want to talk about it, but that journey there of how you went from, this is why it matters. I think people often when they start, they look at something and they're like, oh, I want to be there. and they don't realize that the way to get there is hard work, continuing to show up, having that passion that you talked about. But you even touched on something that I find really interesting that I think is important for us to talk about, because this happens sometimes in life, not to everybody, but it happens sometimes. And you had to make a decision to take a demotion. That was the word that you used. And so and I would argue, hearing your story, and even from what I know from what we were talking about earlier, you wouldn't be where you are today had you not taken that demotion.
I would not.
And I think sometimes we get so stuck in our plan and our way that it's like, oh, well, I don't know if that fits. And it's like, so what happened that you saw or were aware of? Let's call it a self-awareness of taking that demotion. What was going on in your mind that you made the decision to do that? And all right, so all of us have a little bit of ego. I know that I have a little bit of ego because I'm enjoying, being at a company that has my name all over it. I have nothing to do with it, but I love it.
Right.
But so you have to deal with your ego in a demotion.
Correct.
And so what I want to hear from you, Jim, is what was that like? What was going through your mind? Because I think that's something that has value for people who might be listening, because there might be something that they might have chosen the demotion. Maybe they didn't choose the demotion, but it doesn't mean that a demotion has to be bad. And so what was going through your mind when that happened, and why did you do that?
Man, that's a good question. I think and we keep going back to opportunity, but
Yeah.
I also wanted the challenge.
Yeah.
I felt like I had a pretty clear vision of where I could go in the role that I was in. And I felt like if I took that opportunity,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure where it would go,
Yeah.
but I was sure that I wanted to take the chance,
Yeah.
just simply because it was something new.
Yeah.
I've never been asked that question before.
Well,
I
that's
don't
good.
really have an easy time really talking about myself. You know that?
Well, that's why we're here. We get tradespeople in the chairs because they love talking about themselves. Not
Yeah.
and once you're in the chair, you're trapped.
But I think one thing it's important to understand too, the mindset it does take to do that, because anytime you go from being not a boss,
Yeah.
to someone that's been put into a leadership position, all of a sudden everything changes. Your friends aren't necessarily your friends anymore.
Oh boy, that's the truth.
And it even happened. I thought the transition coming from the field to the shop would be easier than what it was.
Yeah.
Just simply because I knew a lot of the people that were in here.
Yeah.
And it was not good.
Yeah.
It was a struggle and a challenge.
Yeah.
To regain their respect and earn their respect, but it all boils back to taking a chance. What do you have to lose? Like
Yeah.
I can go back out and do what I was doing again
Yeah.
tomorrow if this doesn't work out.
Yeah.
So why not try it?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing that you had to do there was deal with your ego, your pride.
And I'm a very confident individual. I feel like I walk that line.
Yeah. Well, I know I do. And my wife lets me know when I'm on the other side of it all the time. But I think that you touch on something that's really important, even in our conversation about titles.
Yeah.
Listen, if you're going after a job because you want the title, then you don't understand what the title means.
Correct.
And so anytime that you have the title of vice president, president, even chairman, whatever that title means, I don't know. Maybe you can help me with it later.
I don't know.
But if you're not willing to take a daily demotion,
Right.
do you know what I mean when I say that? Like, there are times where we're on the job and I'm carrying a cameraman's bag or his gear, or I am the gopher, I am the laborer, I am the, there have been times through my career where I was the president of an organization and it could not be above me to pick up a tool and do a job.
You're exactly right.
And that is what I believe you have to have if you want to grow. And that's all that you should want. Listen, titles are going to come. And I think that we should be careful, because we can also then go on the other side of the line where we get this like false humility about titles. Where I don't want the title. Listen, the title matters so that the structure and the organization knows where to go ask the questions.
Right.
Listen, I'll tell you what the title of chairman means. Do you know when I find out about problems? When they're big.
When they're big.
When they're big.
Always.
And it means that usually they're bad and they're not fun.
Right.
But without the title and a structure, people don't know where to go with that from the
No.
outside or the inside. But you got to be willing to daily be demoted if you're going to have that title.
You have to. And I think that goes out to you have to want to be in that position for the right reasons.
Yeah.
I think that's what differentiates a boss from a leader.
Oh, come on.
I never looked at this was always for the people, because back when I was younger and doing that all the time, I felt like we always didn't have a voice.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was the voice or capable of being the voice.
Yeah.
And I've continued that mindset the entire way through. So you have to have the voice for the people, and they have to know you have the voice.
Yeah.
I always tell the guys, you give me the bullets, I'll fire them.
Yeah.
Just
I like that. We're recording this, so I'm definitely going to steal some of your liners there for sure.
Well, that comes with the check too, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Let's not talk about the checks, because that's another fun conversation too. So we talk about that. I think another thing to kind of harp on, you said some different things there. I read a book once by Patrick Lencioni called The Ideal Team Player. And in that book, he says you need to be hungry, humble, and smart.
Yeah.
And, it's like hungry is that passion that you talked about. Humble is the willingness to be demoted every day. And smart is working together as a team trying to figure out the problem.
Right.
It's not letters behind your name. It's not a 4-year degree. And listen, I don't care if it's college, trade school, or whatever it is. I just think education, period, should be equal.
Yeah.
If you want to learn a trade and become a mechanic, or you want to go and you want to become a doctor, it doesn't matter. It is about the education and continuing to grow in that.
100%.
All right. So we've reached that point where I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
So what is a tool or a piece of gear that Jim cannot live without? Like, you have to have it. It's your go-to.
Wow. That's a tough question. I think I have probably a couple of them.
You can only pick one.
Only pick one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess that's not
okay.
fair.
Okay.
They might have different categories, but
here I have one.
all right.
I have a Zippo lighter that I've carried in my pocket for years. I don't use it. It doesn't even have fluid in it. It'll work if I want it to. But it's no matter where I go, no matter what I do, I carry this Zippo lighter. It was a gift that was given to me from a friend a good while ago.
Yeah.
Has my initials on it. I've carried it every day since, and I don't know why. It's just one of those things. It's always in my pocket. No pocket knife, no anything.
And you
else.
didn't know I was going to ask this question, and you have your one thing right there with you.
Well, no, I didn't know, but that was
Zippo
a tough question.
Yeah.
You could think of a lot of different things.
You
but
can.
That,
It is
that
hard.
is the one thing that religiously every day I have with me.
Every day you have with you. And so what is your thought process? Is it like so you always can have a lighter if you need it, or it's just
I don't know, maybe it's a comfort thing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can understand that. I have a coin that I carry in my pocket that I always have with me. And yeah, it doesn't do anything except remind me of what I'm about.
Right.
So
it's just one of those things.
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Right.
So we're here, and where are we at right now?
We are in the Mellott Service Center.
Okay. So we're in the service center. There is a machine behind me here. Can you tell us a little bit about this machine?
That is a Mezzo LT116 track mobile jaw crusher.
Okay.
So that is something that is utilized as what we would call a primary crusher in the quarry. So when you take the rock and you blast it up and it gets hauled up and dumped on a pile, that would be one of the first machines, or a machine similar to this, stationary or mobile, that would be the rock would be introduced to.
Okay. It's really cute how you say that the rock would be introduced to. He means it would be crushed. That's
crushed.
what he means.
Yeah.
So yeah. And we're talking like what size? Like big rocks being crushed down to the size of.
You say you're going to take rocks this size down to basketballs.
Okay.
So
wow.
like 30.
So it really is the
30
first
It's the first
step.
thing,
Wow.
First step after the dynamite.
Okay. And then what's this thing here behind us that we got back here? The Nordberg HP 300
That would be a cone crusher. So that would
cone
be
crusher.
so that would be for secondary crushing. So you have your primary crushing, you have behind us your secondary crushing. And that's what's going to take the basketball sized rock and crush that down to softball sized rock.
Okay. Wow.
Now there's going to be screens in between each station that's going to segregate the material and separate it out and move it down the line.
Okay. We were talking a little bit earlier, and I was like, "Oh, that looks like some of the things I've seen on Gold Rush." And you're like, "That's because it is."
Yeah,
Yeah.
it truly
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. So, with Mellott, what is your geographic location? And I know the answer to this, but I want to hear it on camera because I think it's absolutely awesome. So, some of the places that Mellott goes to do your job.
Geographically, we're located on the East Coast. We have service centers in North Carolina, Georgia, Tennessee, and Florida. We cover the East Coast from a service perspective. We've had guys in the Arctic Circle. We've had guys in South Africa. We've had guys, they actually even did a sacrifice on a goat in South Africa. I don't know if I can say that, but it's for
Well,
real.
you did. So there we go.
Well, it happened.
Yeah.
So Medi in South America.
Wow.
So we basically travel the country. We have a very, specialized group of individuals. That's
Jim, I don't want to like give you a hard time here on the internet, except for you've actually traveled the globe because the Arctic Circle's not, and
yeah,
Africa.
true.
So I mean, you got the country, and now you're expanding out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would have been more
Globally.
impressed if you would have been like, we now are providing service on the moon with Jeff Bezos and the Amazon moon base. But
You never know what.
Yeah.
Man, sky's the limit, man.
Yeah.
Sky's the limit.
Literally. That's awesome. So okay, so this is what Mellott does now. I find that really interesting because Mellott's story and your story are really similar in the sense of where you started and where you ended up is so different, but it's about continuing to go after that opportunity.
Right.
And I think that's an important thing to be talking about here on the line as we're having this conversation, trying to lift the view of the skilled trades and tell people about what's out there. So just to segue from what you guys do, let's talk about some of the opportunity because Mellott has been doing something recent. I say recently in the past few years, we'll call it. And I would say from what I hear, you guys are providing a lot of opportunity.
Absolutely.
Tell me about this thing I've heard of called Mellott University.
Well, Mellott University was started around 2014, 2015. And that was created from the visions of our owners who were heavily involved in the community and the local high school, which is, 5 minutes up the road from here.
Okay.
And what we did was we wanted to provide an opportunity for kids that were in the vocational programs to learn about our industry, learn about our organization. So we offered them the opportunity to come here as an extension of their vocational school.
Okay.
They would be able to do hands-on training at the same time as we would provide classroom training for them. And they would go through a full term and have the opportunity to graduate at the end of that term. And provided that they passed their classes and did the things that they were supposed to do, we offered them a job. And
Wow.
so over the course of, last 10 years, we've just continued to expand that. We've brought that into continuing education for our elder employees. And we've
It's a
expanded.
fancy way of saying old people.
Yeah, we've
You
expanded.
know who you are.
We've expanded it out to other schools. So we have a little bit farther reach with it, but it's really great to get to those individuals and those kids at such a young age to show them that there's a lot more. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but there's a lot more than auto diesel and a lot more than carpentry. And when you look at this industry and just our organization as well, is what you don't understand is the opportunities that are here, as you were just talking about. We have accountants, we have engineers, we have welders, we have painters, we have mechanics, we have salesmen, we have customer service representatives, we have HR, we have got marketing, we've got anything that you would go to school to do any other job that's out there, we offer it here under one building and under one organization. And from an industry standpoint, it's everywhere out there as well.
Well, I know that's something that you even talked about a little bit earlier, and I don't want to give away your secret sauce, but you guys, you have this. You said this thing. You're a one-stop shop,
Correct.
and you were alluding to how that provides a ability to be, we'll call it, be more competitive instead of eliminating competition.
Yeah.
It's probably a little bit of both, but I mean that is a part of who you are. That you
Right.
guys are. Sounds like if you need something done, you're figuring out how to do it, and you're bringing it under your roof, and you're doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you have to do that as you continue to grow. If you want to, grow organically.
Yeah.
And one thing about this industry in itself is you're talking about blue collar, salt of the earth people.
Yeah.
The greatest people that you will ever
I see
meet.
what you did there with the aggregate industry, salt of the earth people, like they're the aggregate. That's yeah. Anyway.
And relationships.
Yeah, come
like
on.
it's formed on relationships.
Come on, there it is.
relationships from top of the organizations to the bottom of the organizations are formed.
Yeah.
And with those relationships, you find and learn what they need, what you can do more of, and just how you can continue to facilitate and take care of your customers. That's what it's all about. Without
Yeah.
customers, no matter what business you do, if you don't have customers, you don't have a business.
Well, I think that's something that one of the things that I absolutely love about blue collar, about the trades, whether it's construction. Personally, I just love trades.
Yeah.
And the thing that I love about it is that is the future.
100%.
And the crazy part is it always has been the future.
Absolutely.
It always has been in the future from when they were building the pyramids to today. Having a skill, and there's a proverb that says that a man who is skilled in his craft will serve before kings. And it's like, that is the truth.
100%.
It truly happens, when, and that goes from, and even from these guys who have cameras that are taking pictures, from guys that are working on vehicles and machines. I was talking with an electrician the other day. We were talking about the brain power that it takes to troubleshoot a system.
Right.
And how, what you need to do there. And I'm sure that you guys deal with that as well, not even electrically, but just with this equipment, and you're providing service. It takes a special kind of person to be able to utilize that brain power to figure out, okay, this machine isn't working. There's not a book. There's not a Google.
Right.
There's not a, how do I figure out how to fix it? And if you really want to be challenged, go do it in Antarctica.
Right. Exactly.
It
takes such a special person and to do exactly what you just said, but to not only do that, but you're doing it in the heat of the moment.
Yeah.
Because when you're out there, a customer has called you for a service.
Yeah.
And 9 chances out of 10 when the customer calls, it's because he tried to fix it himself. His boss just found out. Now everyone's really pissed off, and we're coming in hot.
Wow.
And those guys not only have to do that, troubleshoot. The automation on these machines is becoming something that is utterly mind-blowing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to go in and troubleshoot and figure it out, because these guys are losing tens of thousands of dollars an hour potentially, if not
Sheesh.
more.
Wow.
So, but that's in turn when you're talking about when you're doing something with your hands. And I always looked at it when we were producing stone. At the end of the day, you could see how big your piles were, and that was rewarding. Or if you're building something, you can step back at the end of the day and see what you accomplished. And it's so rewarding for these guys to go out and fix something that maybe it weighs 175,000 pounds, and they're the guy that's called to go fix it.
Yeah.
They're the guy that shows up on site and is essentially the hero for the customer.
Yeah.
And they're the guy that they call back the next time. Talk about being rewarded
Yeah,
for doing, a great job.
Yeah.
And you just can't speak enough about the people and as you said, the trades, being able to do something with your hands.
Well, that's one thing that I hope that we're doing here today is communicating value of people, because I think specifically blue collar and the trades, they don't always get noticed.
Right.
Like, you call an electrician when your lights don't work.
Right.
They call you when their machines don't work.
Right.
If it's all working, they're not calling you. And if you're doing your job right, then it's all working.
Right. Exactly.
And so that's why I think it's important that we take a moment we have an honest and a real conversation, and we promote the people that make it that we can live the lives that we want to live.
100%.
I had a conversation with Keaton Turner, and he's like, I want to make mining sexy again.
Yeah.
And it's like, I would say that it always has been sexy. We just don't talk about it. I say this a lot. It's like, if a tree falls in the woods and no one is there, well, then does it make a noise?
Right.
Well, yeah, it makes a noise. But if no one hears it, if we're not telling the stories of the men and women that do the work, that make it that we can live our lives, and not only that, but if we're not telling the stories in a way that is honoring to them,
Right.
promoting that, people won't realize how fulfilling that work is.
Exactly.
I mean, my goodness, I got a picture of Jake, one of our shooters here, while we were setting up, and he had grease all over his hands. And some people are like, because that happens here in this shop.
Yeah.
You pick something up and you got some dirt on your hands. But it's like, that isn't a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to get a little bit of dirt on you.
No,
And,
not.
it comes right back to the whole daily demotion of title thing. It's like, you got to be okay with getting a little bit of dirt on you. And quite frankly, it can feel good,
It does.
And so it says something to me about Mellott as an organization, as a company, which again, I have no affiliation with whatsoever. I didn't even know really that you guys existed until this past year. I was in Nashville and I was at Asphalt World.
Yeah.
And I'm walking down this aisle. I was literally killing time before I was going to be doing a podcast with someone. And I'm walking down this aisle and I hear this person go, Mellott! And they yell across the aisle, and I turn and I look, and it was like this Mellott mecca. There was like a spinning thing with said Mellott on it, and all these people wearing Mellott shirts. And I'm like, and they're like, you're a Mellott. And I'm like, yes, I am, but I apparently don't know what that means. And so, it was, so then I did some research and found out more about you guys, and then we connected online. But all of that to say, I have no connection here, but it says a lot about your organization and those who started it to take the time to invest and be like, all right, we're going to start a university.
Right.
Because time is money. And, I'm fascinated about these companies that exist for, a century. Mm-hmm. I've talked with a couple of companies that have been in business for 75 years, 100 years. And it's like, there's a common thread. And it is the care for the people.
You have to have it.
Yeah.
Have to have it. We're not sitting here if it wasn't for the people that are supporting us to do our job.
You mean the guys that are literally working right now, making money while we are not making money?
Exactly.
Yes, exactly.
But at the same time, as much as they are supporting you, you have to support them. That's what makes a leader.
Absolutely.
And that's how it has to be. It's always about the people.
Yeah.
That's the foundation of any organization.
Absolutely.
And that goes back to the culture, as you said, to our ownership and our current leadership right now is it's so culturally sound that the people are first and foremost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's the one thing in hearing what you guys are doing and the way that you're investing in culture in that way. And I also find it really fascinating how I keep getting connected with different people, and it's like, we're attracted to people that share in that culture, and they're attracted to us in that way. And it's like, birds of a feather, they flock together.
Yeah.
And it truly is, if you're honest about who you are and what you're doing, it's going to come back to you in a good way.
Right.
And so with that, we're talking about the culture of your organization. We're talking about what you're doing and your role here, which you're not, your last name is different than the name of the company. And the company has become more than what it was.
Correct.
Because now Mellott truly is about all of the people that are here.
Correct.
Not just the family.
Correct.
And so that's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it fascinating. I see that over and over again in the blue collar trade industry, where families have sacrificed for the good of the people beyond themselves.
Correct.
Their community. You talk about your investment in the school. You talk about, your investment in the people here. And I think the best part about that is how that affected you. Mm-hmm. Because then that's something I believe very strongly in the power of multiplication. I don't want to do 1 + 1 = 2.
Right.
I want to go, 2 times two equal, it's like I want to multiply it,
Right.
and I want to grow it in that way. And when we can invest in people, and when we do that, that's when then you go out and you're doing that, and you're not just doing that at work, you're doing that in your children, you're doing that in your community. And the more that we do that, that is just as fulfilling, if not even more sometimes, than a paycheck.
100%.
And we don't realize the importance of that. But I keep seeing that more and more in the trades industry, and how people are literally sacrificing for the good of all. And so it's like, it's one of those things that I think is important to highlight, because that's what makes you a legacy company, in the sense of, a legacy is what is here after you're dead.
Exactly.
And so the man who started this in a lumber mill in the woods or whatever, here we are in Fulton County on the Maryland-Pennsylvania line, he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
But his legacy lives on, and it's a legacy that builds into the people. And this is the best part about it. It's his legacy isn't his name. His legacy is you.
Mm-hmm.
His legacy is them.
Yeah.
And it's what they are continuing to do in that way. And this is my favorite part of it. It's not his legacy anymore.
Right.
It's your legacy. It's their legacy.
It's our
And
legacy.
It is our legacy. And when we do that, that's where I believe that one person actually can make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I think our culture and our society would say, oh, one person, why bother? Why do this? Why do that? I mean, my goodness, we could watch the news, and they are making money on our discouragement, our fear, our anxiety. That is what they are doing.
Yes.
And I and you and all of these people want to say, hey, it doesn't need to be that way.
Right.
You can make a difference. You can make a difference even in going to Mellott University, going to a trade school, deciding to learn and do better today than you did yesterday.
Yes.
You can make a difference. And
I agree.
I think that is essential in what we're doing.
I couldn't agree more.
So I talked with this about you earlier. Did what I just say make sense? I talked with this about you earlier.
Not really, but I got what you're saying.
You understood
Yeah.
what I was saying.
Yeah.
Well, I'm getting to that favorite question. What is a mistake that Jim has made? And just so you know, this goes on the internet. Like these people here are going to get to listen to this. I mean, I hope that people listen. If you're out there, the line, we're on all podcast platforms. What is a mistake that Jim has made that he would be willing to share with us? Because I believe that when we share our mistakes, one, that shows that we're growing from them and learning from them. Mm-hmm. Two, that provides value to others, that they might be able to learn from that and not make that same mistake.
Wow.
And remember, this is an honest conversation.
Yeah. No.
And I can let me help you out with that.
No. I think I got it here.
You do?
I got it
all
here.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think when we talked earlier about arrogance and about being humble, I think I'll go all the way back to shortly after I became a supervisor. And when you come from where you were to quickly be elevated within a relatively large organization, it can easily go to your head, like real quick. And I was very difficult to work for. Number one, I mean, first of all, you're 2 years in trying to do all that. You might seem on the outside like you really know what the hell you're doing, but
yeah,
I was like the duck floating on the pond because my legs underneath there paddling like a son of a bitch, man, trying to figure this out. And that's what, one thing I always enjoyed. I always enjoyed the challenge, but I was, working in North Carolina. The guys that were working for me was twice my age, not a little bit older. And they were from a different demographic. They were from South Carolina, North Carolina area. I was from, Pennsylvania. Yeah. And I was learning real hard that I wasn't a leader and they weren't following. And there was a guy by the name of Nub Roberts. God rest his soul. He was about 80 years old, and he was the quarry manager at this site. And he pulled me aside one day, and he said, Mr. Jim, he said, you may be one of the most talented individuals I've ever seen.
Come on.
He said, but if you do not learn how to lead this team and get them to respect you, It doesn't matter how much talent you have. And I took that to heart. And from that day forward, I've made it a point to make sure that I was not a boss, that I was a leader. It was about the team. And from that point on, the rest is history. And that was 20 some years ago.
Wow.
This guy told me this, and I can see him as he's standing right here beside me today. And I think about it all the time.
Yeah.
So I guess my learning experience from that was again, I wasn't above those guys.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything differently than they did. I just took the opportunity, and I was going to be their voice, be their leader.
Yeah.
And take them to the promised land, I guess, like
Yeah.
better terms. But you just have to, you got to be humble.
Yeah.
You got to be humble. It's
You
not
do.
about you at that point. When you become the leader or you're in charge of someone else or something else, it's no longer about you.
Boy, that's the truth.
It's about them. And
And if that's not the mindset that you have, one, you will lose that opportunity.
yes,
Two, you shouldn't have it.
correct.
I mean, I think that is fascinating. An 80-year-old man, plus, did you say his name is Nub?
His name was Nub, N-U-B Roberts.
I
Yep.
love that.
Yeah.
But what he did there is pretty significant, and I think it's really important to highlight this because this is literally what we need to be doing as tradespeople now. I talked a little bit earlier with you, the thing that frustrated me, and the reason that we call our podcast The Line is we're constantly challenging people to step up to the line.
Right.
Because when I was an apprentice, they said there's a worker shortage.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody would take the time to do something about it. They weren't stepping up to the line. They weren't, it's like, yeah, that's going to be a problem in the next 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean nobody. I'm sure that there were people out there back then doing that. But there needs to be more of us. And Nub took that moment, like he could have been frustrated, annoyed, and been like, wow, that boy, he's going to lose it. He's in trouble. He's, but he took the time to have a hard, real, honest conversation with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming if he was 80 that he's not with us anymore.
No, God rest his soul. Mm-hmm.
But I wonder, like, we don't know the things that we say when we take that moment to share a mistake with someone.
Yes.
To actually confront someone, because that's what he did with you.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times we don't want to confront people because we don't want to deal with the backlash.
Right.
We don't want to deal with what it is that might affect us in a negative way. But he did that, and here you are. How many years later? Can I ask that?
Oh, shit. I've been here 23 years, so that would have been 21 years ago.
21 years ago.
Yeah.
21 years later, he's no longer here on this earth.
Mm-hmm.
But you still remember that every day.
I remember it every day. That goes to show the people of the industry. He was a customer.
Yeah.
He was not even affiliated with us. We were providing a service for him.
Yeah.
And his company. And he took the time to do that. And the funny thing is that I still remember it today. If I look back to that when I became in charge of the service shop, I had to take a similar approach because the guys that I had worked with then, now I became their boss. Now everyone was like, why is he the boss now and this? So it had to really take a completely different approach to rally the team to really start to grow the service business. And that was by listening and asking questions.
Wow.
Asking opinions. What would you do? You've been here for 25 years. I'm just here. What would you do? Supporting those decisions and making sure that the individuals understood that if you make a mistake, that's fine. I've got your back. Like, we were in this together. I'm not going to hang you out to dry. I'm not going to throw you under the bus. We're going to figure it out. And it all goes back to that one statement. Yeah.
Mistakes only become failures when you decide, one, not to look at them, and two, to give up.
Yeah.
So what is a motivation or an encouragement that you would give to people in the industry like yourself that are out there in encouraging them to step up to the line? What would you challenge people with as we close here?
Well, take a chance. I didn't do anything differently than anyone else in this organization could do. We have another 10 people that's on, my level within the organization that have similar stories to what mine are.
Wow.
But if I was a young individual, I would learn everything that I can.
Yeah.
I would, as you said, learn a trade
Yeah.
and ask questions
Yeah.
and rely on the knowledge of the older generation. We're in a point in time now in the industry, or basically in the world, that it used to be the baby boomers. Now
Yeah.
we're in the Vietnam veterans era,
Yeah.
to where there is a suction of knowledge that is exiting
Oh, it's
in
disappearing. It is
industry
evaporating
right
Yeah.
now. And if you don't take the time, or if you don't organizationally figure out how to capture that knowledge before it's gone, it'll never get there.
Yeah.
But for the young guy coming in, it's like, get your boots on the ground, learn,
Yeah.
get your hands dirty, put nose to the grindstone. Everyone, I interview hundreds of people a month, or maybe less, or maybe more, but 95% of the people you interview, and I always ask the question, like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And 95% of them say, I'm going to be the boss, or I want to be a manager. And I'm like, that's great.
Yeah.
I know you can, but
Yeah.
number one, I would say to you, be patient.
Yeah.
And number two, do it for the right reasons.
Yeah. Come on.
And I think that's where it needs to be. I mean, it starts too at home. These kids got to be taught something at home.
Yeah.
I mean, we're in an age of technology, and it's so frustrating to see, instead of outside doing something, kids are sitting on their phones or doing something. It's like, this is a huge world, man. This is a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
The opportunity is endless to be rewarding for anything that they want to accomplish.
Oh, I absolutely agree.
Even if you want to be an accountant, we have a CFO. I'm sure
Yeah.
he's brilliant man, incredibly successful.
Yeah.
But he too kind of started out and kind of grew with the organization and grew with the industry. So the opportunity is there
Yeah.
to live beyond your wildest dreams.
I really believe that there is no substitute for hard work.
None.
If you work hard, you will be rewarded. And that is the one thing about blue collar and the trades industry. If you don't work hard, it won't work.
Right?
It won't work.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, if you're listening, oh man, I'm going to piss some people off. If you're listening and you're 50 years old and you're like, yeah, well, it didn't work for me. Guess what? You're not working hard enough.
You didn't work hard enough.
That's what it means. Yeah. And I'm sorry to say that, but the deal is, we have decisions on how we look at things. Are we always going to complain about it? Or are we going to figure out how to change it?
Right.
If you're complaining about it, that means that you're not using that brain energy to figure out what it is that you're going to change to make it different, to make it better. What would your challenge, that's a great motivation and encouragement to young people. But you talked about the group of men and women and the knowledge that is evaporating. I'll make this one my challenge because I'm very familiar with it, and you can agree or disagree, but here is my challenge. If you are one of those workers who has that knowledge and you are older in life, and let's just be clear, we reach a point in life where we're no longer the young buck, and we have some knowledge that took us a few years to get. I often have guys say to me, well, I need experienced help. I need experienced help. Well, whose fault is it that we don't have experienced help? That's your fault. And the only way to fix that is to be the guy that takes the time to start explaining, hey, this is why I do this. This is how this works. And guess what? It takes longer. The job will take longer and you'll make less money. But you will maintain being in business. Just like Mellott had to decide to pivot multiple times in tragic situations.
Correct.
They made a decision. You have to make that decision to invest in that person. And that's the other thing. Don't become overwhelmed with the fact that we have hundreds of thousands of worker shortages. Pick one.
Yeah.
Pick the one that you can invest in that moment.
I think the classic mistake that's made is that when you're looking to train someone or you're looking to hire someone, the fear is that you're hiring or training your replacement.
Yeah, come on. This is it.
And I think that has to be something that is taken away, because as a leader and as someone that's training someone, you want to train your replacement.
Absolutely.
If you're adding value to an organization or
you're going to become
company,
the vice president.
They're not going to get rid of you.
Exactly.
Your job becomes
essential.
That, and the ability to train your replacements and your replacements placements and your replacements after that.
Exactly.
That has to be what it's about. That's the growth of your organization, the industry, the growth of the world. I mean,
Yeah.
It has to be.
You're talking about there's two mindsets. There's two types of people. You can be in the protect and defend camp,
Yes.
or you can be in the learn and grow camp.
Yeah.
And protect and defend always dies.
Yeah.
Learn and grow always grows. Always.
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 Well, Jim, thank you so much for stepping up to the line with me here today. I really want to encourage you. Let's hold the line.
Yeah.
Let's hold the line, and let's continue to challenge other people to stand next to us.
Absolutely.
To do what Mellott is doing, to do what so many of the companies that I've talked with are doing. And if you're listening and you're a company or an individual and you want more information, reach out to us. We can connect you with Jim if you're interested in something there, or if you're interested in stepping up to the line in some way and what you can do to affect the industry. We challenge you to reach out to us at Blackline as well. So, Jim, thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's been a great conversation, and hopefully we've got some people that's going to be interested in the industry.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Appreciate
All
it.
right. Well, that's it. We're out.
Perfect.
Yeah. This was great. I love it. I wish we had like smell-o-vision or something. 'Cause
Yeah?
all the grease and the oil. That's great. I absolutely love it.
Ah.